I've had enough of camera companies pretending they're trying to make the perfect camera. I have a list. I made a list. If it doesn't have everything on this list, you're not even in the running. Today I lay it down on the line once and for all. This is the perfect camera to aim for, and I will allow Fuji or Sony to make it. No one else. You're not allowed. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. You touch it, I hope you burn your hands.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
There's an experiment today. We're on the Panasonic G9 with the Voigtlander 10.5mm at tone is 0.95. There's no chance I'm in focus. I'll stop it down in a second. No, I won't. I just wanted to see if Panasonic could handle the stabilization of the wide lens and if there was enough tone to tone our wives. Okay, I stopped it down to 1.4, so we have a small chance of being in focus now. So this is the definitive list. I'm not half-assing this. If you actually made this Fuji, Sony maybe, I would accept this as the perfect camera. I'm not just like, oh, it's a 1-inch sensor, it's okay. No, we're going for it. We're going for the gold. I don't know if it's even technically feasible, but this is what I want and demand. So the first thing I want is a Fuji-designed 12-megapixel X-trans sensor with a backside illuminated viability, stacked by Sony. They'll help you stack it if you ask them nicely. I'm telling you right now, there's something magical about the X-trans sensor. I've watched a couple videos on it, still don't understand how it works, but the dynamic range of a Fuji sensor is magic. As you can see, we lost it with a Panasonic loser sensor. My face just clipped like a hair barber would try to after a haircut. But can you imagine a 12 megapixel? The Fuji X-T4 has what, 26? And they still beat the full frame cameras in dynamic range. Imagine a Fuji 12 megapixel. Sony would cry in their sleep. This camera is a vlogging dream camera. It has no other purpose. It's perfect. Designed for this. It can take photos, but only to make fun of your family with. Uncle, you're fatter than you were last year. In fact, that's one of its features, fat mode photography, and it creates an outline of your former self when you had more dignity and you didn't emotionally eat. You Thanksgiving bitch. So guess what? This Fuji 12 megapixel sensor with more dynamic range, 17 stops of dynamic range, has no autofocus. It's a fixed focus signum. Signum? That's not even a word. You didn't even forget another word for this one. This sensor alleviates Panasonic's biggest fear, which is phase detection will ruin our amazing image. Your image sucks. Actually, it's the best image we've ever had. Every time I make a video on Panasonic, everyone's like, oh, that's the best. Damn you, Panasonic. But we don't have to worry about the processing power needed for great phase detect autofocus. It's just fixed. It within 1 foot. You're holding it here, most likely. Maybe a little further. But its maximum sharpness is 1 foot away and more. None of this DJI Osmo action where it's like you need a pole. This is pocketable, maybe. With its APS-C sensors, it's unlikely. But it better fit in my pocket. And obviously the Insta360 1R, same problem. Not focused. Close enough. So that it's not even an option. I wanted to test it. They wouldn't send it to me. They know the results. When it comes to the lens, you could go a couple different ways, but anywhere from 16 to 18. And no, not a 16 to 18 zoom, you're a moron. Just pick one. 17, okay. 16 might be I do demand digital stab, so 16 might be nice. You crop in a little bit. Optically stabilized lens. This is where Sony maybe should make the system. Fuji, you don't know what you're doing. But the Boss Plus digital, we got it. And that lens needs a retractable lens cap like the ZV-1, the Canon G7X. That was so annoying with the X3000. I had to get a little rubber thing, and if you didn't have it, it's just this bulbous lens. It's weathered to the elements. So lens cap opens and closes automatically. When I tested that Nikon Z50, I was blown away by the stabilization. It was so good. And it was just optical stab, no digital. It had digital, that made it worse. But just the optical, it's so much more natural than the IBIS. Like this, maybe not so natural. I don't know if it is or not. It's so heavy it shouldn't have the micro jitters, but There's always the corner weirdness, but just lens stabe if it's good, that looks the most natural while you're walking. It's the best. So you have optical stabilization plus digital with a little crop, maybe 1.1 times. And give me levels of it if you want, a 1.2 times for the ultimate, but make it better, not just like it crops more like Canon's enhanced. It's just like worse in every way. It's actually smooth. I'm lying. But Canon's kinda, you see the digital artifacting in the background, it's like shaking weird. So none of that here. It's just nice. It's not GoPro-like. Don't do that to me where I'm wiggling in the frame and everything's smooth back here. Just smooth out the kinks. Kink-ass trick.
So what were you saying?
They flustered me. When it comes to frame rates, I'm going to be very reasonable. I don't even want 4K 60p. Just 4K 24, 4K 30 in a 10-bit 422-like fashion. You know what I noticed on the G9? Cars go by when you use it. You can't do 1080p, 24p, 10-bit. That's what I was going to do today. And I couldn't do it. You can do 4K. That's an interesting crippling. Did you borrow the hammer? How much did it cost to rent? Yeah, was it worth it? I doubt it. Where I am going to be unreasonable is my slow motion frame rate options. So you got 4K 30p at the max, but 1080p. Okay, here's the deal. 240 frames per second would make me slightly happy. But super happy would be a 480 frames per second mode. I don't care if it looks a little worse, it's actually truly 720p, but upsampled to 1080. Like the Sony ZV-1, it does 960p, it says it's 1080, but it's like upsampled from 240p max. I don't mind it, just give us the modes. Don't tell me that, oh, it won't look as good, I don't care, I'm crossing a street like a moron. I don't have to be that sharp. You know what's interesting about the slow-mo in the G9? It does 180 frames per second, but it makes it into a 30p format. So I have to slow it down further to get it to match up to the 24p so it's not jittery. I don't mind that. So that's 198 frames per second, at least. Now one thing that has to be in this camera, and what I just did to switch to the slow-mo was a quick custom mode switch. So you have to have a button that cycles through custom modes. We get at least 5 of them. Slow motion, other dreamy stuff, and it's just one button press like the DJI Osmo Pocket. Action. Pocket sucks. Don't ever buy it. Affiliate links down below. The way the GoPro did it was a little annoying. You had to touch the touchscreen to do it, and it didn't always work. In the winter with the gloves, it definitely didn't work. They have one of the worst touchscreens I've ever seen. So it has to be a button, a solid button on the side, and it just cycles through. When it comes to the body style, I want this in a Sony X3000 type body, that longer style with a flippy screen, like an actual camcorder, but it's smaller. I like that much better. It's easier to hold your hands out of the way of the shot, as opposed to the GoPro flat mode. No matter where you hold it and you're touching a mic, oh, that sucks. So X3000 body, I'm just curious how big this is gonna be. That lens, I forgot to say, 2.8's fine. If it has to be 24 to keep the size down, okay, everything should be in focus pretty much. Low light's not a huge thing. This thing needs to be with you. It has everything you need right here. So it has that camcorder style body, but there's a shotgun mic built in with an excellent wind muff. They come detachable, you can sell them in different colors. There you go. There's some coin on the side. But I think that's important. We all want the mic jack, and there better be one in there. But true simplicity was that X3000 if it only had a shotgun mic that isolated background noise. I want it. Oh, I want it more than anything I've ever wanted. But that's the key, the simplicity. It's so easy, and it has a shotgun mic built in. a little, I don't know how you do it. If it's coming out the bottom, it can't get around the lens. It's got to be underneath, and the wind muff can't be seen in the lens. Don't mess around, GoPro style, where it's like you see it, you're a scrub. When it comes to exposure, we have the face exposure detection, where it just exposes nicely for the face, or switch it off. We should be able to adjust it. It should be attached to the zebra settings, where it's like, okay, I never want my sky to go past 95% zebras, so never do it. So you don't get this blown out Canon skies where you're on another planet filming from Venus trying to get back home. Nobody wants you back. But you should have a mode that's face detection and, okay, blow out the sky for some people who are so egotistical they need to be always the center of exposure. I found it was a little off-putting on the Nikon. It looked cool how fast it did it, and I was like, wow, it always exposes for my face. But it blew out everything else, so it's not a pleasing image then. So, zebra connection, exposure mode. When it comes to picture profiles, I want the F-Log in there, and Eterna and all the other ones, but also some fun ones. Just different ones, like old-timey stuff with the black line wiggling, like it looks like I'm in the 1800s. For the boardroom meetings of years past. And also like an underwater mode that looks like I'm underwater now. There's like a blue tint. Feel free to add fish if you want. Maybe not. That's cheesy. I took it overboard. But waves, I wouldn't mind it. Why? I don't know. I need it. I just really miss my X3000 bringing it. Like, this is heavy. This is ridiculous. It might look glorious, but is it worth it? Wait, now. The background blur separation. This should replicate what the Sony a7S III and the 20mm Tony 1.8 would look like. Same aperture, if I'm in focus. I'm probably not. Right there. That's how much background blur we can expect soon when Camera Canada sends us the camera. Here's Tony 2 just to replicate a bit more of the Action Cam look. And when I said 2.8, that's APS-C. If you can make it small and be a Tony 2, I would love it, but I'm being reasonable here. If it even has to be Tony 4, I would put up with it. But man, I miss my X3000. It was always with me. When I don't bring this giant setup, I have nothing. I sold the GoPro. That was a buyer's mistake on that one. I would have liked it for the slow-mo and the hyperlapse. I should have kept it for that, but once a company deceives me, I operate with integrity here. I cannot recommend GoPro products because they don't work reliably. You never know when you're going to lose footage. So that thing's garbage. X3000 I gave away. So now I have no Action Cam. I gave away my little Acaso, whatever that thing was called. Brave Plus. It was brave to be filmed in public. So I'm hoping DJI comes out with a Mark II that's actually close focusing distance and then it's usable for vlogging. Or Fuji make it. The Fuji Action Cam, because we all know the Sony X4000 ain't coming. I've demanded it. So that's pretty much the camera. That's it. 4K 24, 10-bit 422 with the 12 megapixel super dynamic range system and F-Log. Fixed focus right there, ultra wide lens with a shotgun mic, wind fur on it. Fits in the pocket. Flippy screen. Just make it, Fuji. I'll collaborate with you. Just take the idea and run with it. Just let me follow you in the fields. We're back then less than 1 Tony of a month. Just for maximum stupidity. You can't even read that. Because it's not English. Not because it's so blurry. So I'm gonna leave. What do you think? Is that the perfect camera? I do believe it is. Let me know how this performed today. Is it glorious? Is it worth the wait? Is it better than the Fuji? I swear to God if it is. I don't want Panasonic making this camera. After they made the G100, they died in my heart. So, we're done. Thanks for buying a camera conspiracy. Oh boy. Subscribe for more videos. I'll see you next.